I think the mic's probably open. So you can probably hear the noise in the background. I'm going to have to make a chart for this. Let's see. From Denver. Almost got a contact with someone on 10 meter FT8 to Colorado. Oh, yeah. Well, 73 isn't necessary to call it a contact. Let's see. Greetings from St. Louis, Mo. Backyards on the air during COVID-19. Yes. J72 IMS. Ishmael, hello. How do you make a 3-element 2-meter beam? It's actually very easy. There's lots of... I guess I should be typing this. Yeah, we'll get the straightened out. If this works out, we'll have... I'll get some charts like I have for the Saturday live stream. Note that it is already Friday UTC. We have leftover questions from March 28, March 21, and some from last summer. So we've got ample questions to go through. Let's see. Ishmael, look on the internet and ask that question of the internet because it will show you how to do that. It's actually very simple. The tricky part is going to be to feed it. Gamma match is very commonly used to feed it. And there will be instructions on how to make one of those. You left out Arizona. You're on Mountain Standard Time. Actually, I wish it were daylight savings time year-round. I really don't like the time change. Mountain Standard Time, so that means you're the same as Pacific Daylight Time then. From UK. Boy, you're up late, Andy. You fixed your clock. Yeah, the clock is ticking. It is doing that. I got that. We don't observe that. Right. How do I set up a crossband repeater using an ISOM IC2350H? I think you can set it up using just one radio. There are radios that are crossband repeaters without having to do two of them. The D578 UV 3 Plus Pro, whatever it is, from Anytone will do it, all in one package. I advise not running it over 25 watts. Is it possible something about adjusting SWR on QFH antennas? I'm not sure what those are. Do you have a link or something? What simple antenna can you make from PVC pipe, aluminum wire, and 75 ohm coax? The aluminum wire, of course, is problematic because it will corrode where it connects to copper. You can slow that way down by using stainless steel connectors, but you could make a 2-meter beam that way. ES, I think, is España, and that is already 1 in the morning there. Okay, Far West, hello. Cross dipole antennas are a variety of things you can make. Okay. Indio. Hello, Indio. I've been to Indio before. It can get warm there. And that is, I believe, the date capital of the world, which has nothing to do with romance. It's date, the fruit grows there on those date palms. 3-element 2-meter beam. Ishmael, you asked that question a moment ago. And I would say check on the internet for... boy, my clock is running late. 58, 55, so it's 59. If my mechanical clock is within 2 or 3 minutes, I consider it accurate. If my GPS clock is off by a second, something is badly wrong. So, quadrifiller for satellites. Look in the antenna handbook. They've got plans for those in there. Haven't looked, but do you show how to put Anderson connectors together in a video? I did a video on that just a couple days ago. Build a 6-meter double bazooka yesterday. Good. And Mark, thank you for your kindness. I appreciate it. Have you ever used an Ed Fong 2-meter roll-up antenna? I do have a 2-meter roll-up antenna. It's not Ed's, but they do work very well. I saw a presentation by Ed once. He gave a presentation to our club. Oh, it is time to start. So let me okay that device there and go to the headshot with logo. And here we are. It is nighttime, so I don't have my windows putting light on me. And let's see if I can do a little something with that color. I think I look like a dead fish or something. Let's see, configure video, white balance. Let's kick the white balance up more around 4,000. That's too much. That's about right there. Let's try that. Okay, I don't quite look dead. And there is a lot of orange in the wood. The wood is pine that was stained some 17 years ago, and it's all gotten darker with age and exposure to sun coming in the windows. I have not tried building a fat dipole for 80. I know the ARRL uses one for 80 meters. It still won't cover the entire band, but you can cover like the entire general section of the band with one of those fat dipoles. What a fat dipole is, well, let me go back to the overhead. You can make a fat dipole. You can make them for any band, but you don't really need to because a regular dipole will cover all of 40 meters. But what they do is they take some spreaders and cross the spreaders and bring rope from each of these back to this. And then they've got 4 wires like this, and they come back together to a point to be fed, and then they spread out again. And this creates the equivalent of a very thick wire. And as it turns out, as you go up in the thickness of a wire in a dipole, the bandwidth of the dipole increases. And you create, in essence, a virtual wire there that's 4 feet thick. And you can increase the bandwidth rather substantially by doing that. It takes a little work to put an antenna like that together. And you've got to have a lot of room. But it does work. It does work. It's not a panacea because it doesn't cover the entire 80-meter band. Let's see. Chesapeake Bay, have I ever used an Ed Fong? I've got, like I said, the roll-up. It works fine. 3-element 2-meter beam using the PVC pipe and aluminum antenna. Search the internet for 2-meter antenna, 2-meter beam antennas, 2-meter Yagi antennas, and you'll find lots of sites with plans for how to do that. You ever tried? Let's see. Look like Santa out of uniform. Yeah, well, I don't have my shirt on. I suppose I could. SDR and magnetic loop antennas. Any concerns? You're not going to get a nice waterfall with a magnetic loop antenna because the mag loop antenna bandwidth is so narrow. You just get a little tiny waterfall right around the signal that you're looking at. The two are kind of antithesis of each other. Software-defined radios are very low-Q devices. They have a very broad response frequency-wise, whereas magnetic loop antennas are very high Q, have a very narrow response. Ishmael keeps asking for that. Maybe somebody can look up a link and post it. Cage dipole, yes. Can you talk about mounting a 2-meter antenna in a house and what to do regard to lightning grounding? I would recommend that you keep the cable relatively short. Note that as you put up any antenna above a half wavelength high, which on a dipole means any antenna you've got on the roof, you're going to get lensing in the pattern. You may have to adjust the height up and down a little bit to hit your repeater just the way you want it to move from one lens to another or into a dead spot. As far as lightning, I recommend a alpha delta lightning arrestor on the ground rod, at the top of the ground rod. Take your coax to that and then from that into the house. And that will really make a difference. Let's see. Watched your videos, got my extra, thank you. All right, good for you, Scott. Congratulations. Cage dipole, yes. You got it right, cage, yes. Looking alive to me, yeah. Let's see, we've got 85 viewers. That's pretty good for a pretty much unheralded live stream. Well, why don't we first of all, everybody wants the computer update, okay? What has happened on the computer is sharp-eyed viewers, and quite a few people caught this, noted that the chip I bought, which is right here, the chip I bought was incompatible with the motherboard. So I called around today, and in Delta, which is about an hour away from here, there's a little computer store there where the guy said, no, I don't have the i7 you need, but I do have an i3 you can borrow. So my wife and I drove up to Delta, and we did our transaction outside, at least 6 feet apart, because he's hypersensitive, and my wife and I put on masks when we go to the grocery store. But anyway, he loaned me an i3 core at the 9th generation level. An i3 core, which Coffee Lake, which fits this motherboard. So I came home, put that in. I have installed Windows, I've installed Chrome, and the rest of the stuff's going to be put aside till tomorrow because I got to study tonight for my ground school tomorrow morning. But the computer is working. I'm going to put the correct processor on order from Newegg. Newegg, I guess. Although, if I do it through Amazon, Amazon's running about a week behind with their orders right now. But, if I got the i3, it's working. I may give this Core i7, since I can't return it to Newegg. I've got a Core i7. It's a 7th generation, and it's a perfectly good processor. I may give it to him so he can build a computer with it or something like that. He was really nice about it. So, any tips for a new ham when purchasing used gear for a first rig for DX? Have your Elmer look at it. And if possible, borrow the radio for a few weeks and try it. Either give the payment to a third party to give it to them if you like the radio, or give it back to you if you don't. Do something there. I really recommend against used radios for beginners because you've got enough to deal with getting on the air. And antennas and grounding and RFI and da-da-da-da. You got so much to deal with getting on the air with new equipment. You don't want to also have to deal with someone else's problems with that old radio. So I really would recommend that you buy new equipment for your first real radio if you can. Now, that said, there's some real bargains out there. You can get very, very good HF radios for $300, on eBay and so on. But buyer beware. I mean, the thing could have a hidden problem in it. It may have a problem in it that the original owner didn't even know about because he never tried using that feature. So be careful and get help. Hello, Richard from Leicester, Mass. Land of many hills. Yes, I've been there. Josh and Sterling, remote testing, yes. Do you have much ground losses in a concrete roof? Concrete roof? Whoa, I wouldn't want that thing dropping on me. If you do have a concrete roof, and there are places where they do make roofs that way, they're very heavily reinforced with rebar. So they're going to act like ground. So if you're going to put a vertical antenna on it, I'd spread radials out on the thing, pretending just like it's on the ground. What am I training in, a C-172? Actually, that's a sore spot. I'm training in a Cessna 182 because that's all that's available. That's the only aircraft for rent between here and Grand Junction. And it's still an hour away. And I go right by the Montrose Airport, which is an active airport with commercial traffic and everything, to get up to Delta, which is a little wide spot in the desert, because they've got the aircraft available for rent around here. At some point, after I go through learning basic flight maneuvers, I'm going to have to switch to a light sport aircraft. And frankly, I need help finding one. Somebody will loan it or rent it, or maybe I can come up with some sort of a purchase agreement for it. You can spend anything you want on an aircraft. You can find lots of cute little sport aircraft out there for $150,000. I don't have that kind of money. I don't have a quarter of that kind of money. But yeah, Cessna 182. Decide to get a replacement motherboard? No, I'm gonna keep the newer motherboard and then get a newer processor for that. Drivers or computer upgrades for the IC7300. Pretty much any Windows 10 computer ought to deal with it fine. It's got a USB, a real USB. It will install, when you install the driver from ICOM, which you need to do before you plug the ICOM into the computer. You've got just, the only connection between the computer and the radio is a single USB connection. Before you plug it in, install the ICOM driver, which you will download from the ICOM site. Get that driver in there, then plug it in. And it will look like to the computer, to part of the computer is a COM port. So you go looking in, let me see, let me turn mine on. Oh, I gotta turn the power on. Okay. And now I'm going to go to Device Manager, and I'm going to put Device Manager up here, and I'm going to show the top screen. I'm sorry this isn't very big on there, but I'm going to go into ports. Okay, there is a port COM9, and that is the port that you will tell things like when you do FT8. FT8 communicates with the radio two ways. It communicates USB because the radio has a equivalent of a sound card in it, and so it will use that sound card. And there also you use this COM9 when you go in to set up the rig control. Okay, so that's how that works. You don't need anything special about Windows or anything like that for that to work. Let's see. So I'm setting up a mobile station with my grandpa's old IC730. How can I test the microphone to be sure it works before I get on the air? The easiest way to do that is to get on the air. If you've got a handheld, give the handheld to somebody to listen to while you use the microphone. Just use your call sign and say testing. That's really all you need to do. A 172 would be much cheaper, and yeah, it would if there were one. That's the problem. What I really need to do is be able to borrow somebody's light sport aircraft. I'd be happy to rent it. But when you get into renting, the problem with aircraft, you know, as a ham, I have over 45 years built up an intuition for how much a certain capability should cost. And I can look at an antenna tuner and say, boy, it's expensive, or gee, that's cheap, or something, you know, just built on that intuition. Well, I tell you what, if it involves aircraft, add a zero at the end. Okay? So a nice little GPS unit that I might hold in my hand might be $250. An entry-level little GPS unit for an aircraft would be $2,500. And everything in aircraft is like that. It's crazy. Just add a zero. I don't know why that has to be, but it's probably the legal liability and all the insurance and all the things like that that go back and forth. I am brand new in this. I'm having a blast. And Mark McGrath, Sean McGrath, is giving me my ground school. He is an Augie. He is a patron. He is a longtime supporter of this channel, and he's giving me ground school. We're doing it over Skype. And I've got all the books here, and he's a certified instructor. And so I'm having fun doing this. I got to figure out a way to really tightly connect this to ham radio. Maybe fox hunting from the air. We'll try that. Do you know any field expedient antennas that have the wire length band pre-labeled along the wire to help unspool to the desired length without measuring? Yes, the military has a device like that. It's actually a tape measure. It's actually a tape measure. You pull out the tape measure to the right length, hang it up, and go. And I've seen them. You also might take a look at the buddy pole. I have one. It's out in the trailer. I should use it more. I bought it with channel funds. They didn't send it to me. Let's see. No joy, no digital. Oh dear. Well, something's set wrong then. Oh, you do have to go into the ICOM menu system. They have a, if you go menu, you go set, they have a function here called connectors. Okay? And you have to set that up properly. Let me see if I can show you how it's done. Does that show that? Yeah, sort of. Okay, what I did was I went menu, set, over here, and you've got two pages here. You go into connectors, and you've got, let's go up to the top page, what the USB output is supposed to be. I've got AF. You want to know the output level. We're not doing the IF. Accessory mod level, 50%. USB modulation level, and I'm taking it up to 74%. Data off. Modulation comes from the microphone. Data mode, it's supposed to be mode, I don't know why they can't spell it out. USB. Okay, if you go in there, you've got mic accessory, mic and accessory, or mic USB. You want just USB. Okay, external keypad we don't have connected up. CIV, baud rate, auto, address 94H, transceive on, remote transceiver address 0H, and there you go. Okay, so these are the things that you've got to set up on the 7300 to get it to work with that USB connector. Okay, looking for an Elmer in Southwest Florida. Paul, are you in where? Tampa, St. Petersburg? what you want to do is go on. For the experimental aircraft, you don't need the kind of certification that you need for bigger aircraft. Bigger, like a 172 is bigger. But for the experimental, and you can put stuff in it that's a little questionable in my mind, but can work. I don't mind in ham radio doing stuff in sort of a kludge fashion, because it's ham radio, we're hams, that's what we do. We invent things that way. But if something breaks, we don't crash and burn. Okay? If something breaks, we just sweep it up and go on to the next project. So, if I use my HF radio with portable fiberglass mast when camping, use my power supply plugged into the outside plug in my camper, how should I ground it, or will it ground through the ground plug? If you are in a campground like a KOA, your power supply is probably grounded through their 3-wire ground in there. And if you've got something hung up on the camper, ground it to the camper frame. That should really help. Sporty's Pilot Shop. Yes, that's a major. Let's see, am I online? It shows green, good. It says unable to connect to chat. Please try again later. Say something. Something. Yeah, it went up. It said something. By the way, the super chat is open. That's the little $sign down there below where you write chats. Well, I've been saying for 25 minutes I'm going to be talking about questions. So why don't we do a few here? These are the questions left over from last Saturday, and we'll kind of work backwards as we go through these and see how far we can get. I think it's kind of fun just to answer your questions here and the kinds of things that you're talking about here. So hopefully it will... I guess... if you see something on chat, try chatting to me. I am not getting the chat, but okay. This one is from Jim Brand, KD9PAH. Okay, and he says, thank you for your vids. I just pulled my ticket in March after dithering about trying for 40 years, and being in lockdown for the immediate foreseeable future is a great way to keep my mind and soul occupied while not working. Looking hard at your reference antenna. Will likely order one soon. That's the MFJ 2010. Question about placement. Still operating a low power rig. An option where I can place it fairly close, less than 50 feet. Not too high, 20 feet or so. That's where I have mine. Another option where I get it higher, but it would be 200 plus feet. Well, you might want to go to, especially if you're doing QRP, go to RG213 or LMR 400 or RG8 if you're going to do the 200 feet. On the low bands, 80 and 40 and even 20, the coax losses are not that high, but I would go to the thicker coax. I just did a video on Times Microwave. Well, I talk about patience. They sent me that stuff in October that I showed just a few days ago. And they came back with a note, email, saying they really loved it and could they send me more stuff. And so, boy, talk about patience. A lot of the vendors are nowhere near as patient, I'll tell you that. I sent you this, why haven't you reviewed it yet? And I just got it. Let's see. Is there any significant advantage or disadvantage to one end being significantly higher than the other? 30-degree angle. If you put one end of an antenna up and the other end low, the direction of propagation will be in the direction of the low end to some degree. Now, dipoles, even if they're slanted, when they're slanted like that, they're called slopers. And the propagation direction is stronger in the direction of the downward slope. Now, it may seem odd, but it is. And it's not going to be strongly so, but if that's what you can do there. Okay, yeah, the tests are. Testing is a problem. There are exceptions in the FCC guidance for testing to allow for remote testing, but basically it's done in Alaska. So you can go to Alaska and take a remote test. The ARRL is working with the FCC on that issue, but one thing you could do, if you've got a large gymnasium, you could put the three VEs at three tables 20 feet apart, and then out in the middle of the floor, 2 or 3 stations for people to take their tests, so that you're abiding by the social distancing rules, and do it that way depending on what your local law enforcement is having to enforce. It's a real problem with testing, because testing is built around the idea of 3 VEs who can supervise you and all that sort of thing. This one is from Justin Brewer, KJ6FTD. Been following you for a while. Enjoy your videos. My question is an inexpensive HF antenna solution for a high-rise condo. Oh boy. Either homebrew or purchased. Planning on upgrading my license to general once I return to the States. We'll be returning to the Philippines. We'll be purchasing a Yaesu 891 due to the space in the condo. Yaesu makes a series of, they look like mobile 2-meter radios, but they're actually HF radios. ICOM with their 706 were the first people to break into that field doing that, but now they don't make one. Yaesu makes them. Anyway, would like to operate from condos, 1 bedroom, 24 square meters, small balcony. It's on the 22nd floor. Is that in the Philippines or is that here? Philippines is earthquake country. I did my Mormon mission in the Philippines back in 71 to 73. Developed a great love for the country. I would try, MFJ makes a balcony antenna that hooks onto the rail, and it's basically a ham stick going out and then a counterpoise that you can put back into the building. That works. You can also do a mag loop sitting out there on the balcony. And those kind of are the 2 choices that I would think of right now, trying either one. Okay, yeah, I'm not getting any chat features here, and I apologize for that. Pop-out chat, maybe that would work. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm getting the chats now. Okay, it's pop-out chat. Recommend a nice USB mic with ham radio deluxe. Well, really you can use almost anything. I'm using this USB mic right here. Let's see if I can get the brand name off of it. No, I guess not. I'll have to take an action to look that up. It was one that was sent to me for review. Where did that go? Okay. Sporty's Pilot Shop, yes. Good job on computer build. Do not use the i3. It is far too weak for what you want to do with video. Use the i7. I will do the 7, but as this guy up in Delta pointed out to me, I can use the i3 so I can get all my stuff loaded on the thing. And by the time the i7 arrives. And really nice. Naples in the Everglades. The Everglades water is fresh, or at least brackish. If it's brackish, it'd act as a good ground plane. Fresh water doesn't. Like Davis buffering in the high side. When I took my ground school, I learned instruments, then flew. Every time I looked down the instruments, the nose of the plane went down. Yeah, my instructor actually, on my one whole flight that I've had before everything shut down, actually put a card in front of the instruments to keep me from looking at them. He says, you fly looking outside the airplane. And if I'm going to be a sport pilot, it's VFR only anyway. That means no instruments. Okay, have you ever done an episode on D-Star? I have not. I need to. And I need to talk to the marketing guy. His name will come to me in a minute. Are you doing Saturday and Thursday now? Yes. For the duration of the emergency. Tom Frericks, thank you very much for the well, if you pop out the live chat, you don't get the super chat thing. Okay. New IC 7300 shipped for $879 after mail-in. That's about how much I paid for mine. I supposedly got a special deal. Club had to cancel testing for April. Used Zoom. Yes, our club is doing that too. Just do the testing in Home Depot or Walmart. There's people all over the place. Well, that's true. You could. Came to my attention. Nice to see you expanding. Nice US Blue mic is the Blue Yeti. Yes, that has a very good reputation. In a ground floor, what type of antenna can you use? Well, you can still attach that hamstick to the balcony rail if there's a balcony rail there. You know, when I was at the officers on-base Bachelor Officers Quarters, BOQ, I remember all those old acronyms from my Air Force time. I actually got permission from the base commander to put an antenna on the roof, and I took my 14 AVQ and used concrete blocks to hold down the guy ropes and ran the wires through a plastic pipe down into my room, which was on the first floor, as I recall. And it worked fine. And, of course, that was military, you know, and if you can talk the commander into doing something, fine. Let's see. Okay. Can you operate HF Mobile from an airplane like a Cub? Yes, you can. Ray Novak, yes, of ICOM. Thank you. Thank you. Ray's a great guy. What's his name? One of my compatriots on YouTube, the N6. The one who says he's the ham radio channel your mother warned you about. He did a nice interview with Ray a while back. Ray, of course, was not possible owner forbids it, yeah. Well, if you're in an airplane like a Cub, if the pilot in command says no, the answer is no. There's no workaround that says you can do it. The pilot in command has godlike authority in the air, and you need to do what the pilot in command says, or you can actually get in legal trouble for doing that, because he is solely responsible for the safety of the flight. And so he has to have absolute authority. She can also have it, too. There are lots of women pilots out there now, and more all the time. I have flown on airplanes with all-women flight crews. And that was not just recently, that was quite some time ago, too. We need more women in ham radio, we really do. A lot more. This channel is like 96% male. Okay, Bob K6UDA, yes. What is the best HF Yegi for the money? Well, I'll tell you what. Go down to a club meeting, ask that question. If there's 13 people, you'll have 26 opinions. By the way, I talked to Brad Rich, who put up that big exotic. Let's see, it was a big Step IR beam. 3-element, something like that. I was talking to him today, and he said, he's become a good friend. He said that he's breaking every pile up on the first try. So, of course, he's got an amplifier too, but he's got a 90-foot tower, got that great big gigantic beam on top of it, and running full gallon, and he says he's doing very well with it. Okay, let's see. This is Eugene Morgan, WB7RLX. I've been enjoying your videos and like your interviews with Ray Nelson, N1MPD. Ray, it's been a while since I did those. I should do another one with him. I did a couple of them. He does coax for a living. He's got a shop where he sells coax, puts ends on it, does a lot of custom work, sells bulk coax. Go to coaxusa.com. Great information on weatherproofing. You want to ask, in addition to the steps, I also use what is known as tune-up grease, aka dielectric grease. Top of my Elmer, that where there is air, there is moisture. Oh yes. So beside the self-sealing tape, I also put a dab of dielectric inside the PL259 before I screw it together and seal it up with self-sealing tape. He thinks this is a best practice. And I've taken apart antennas that are years old and the connections looked as good as the day I assembled them. It's a good idea. I noted that using something like a dielectric was not mentioned in your videos. Is there reason to not use it? Just curious. No reason. Butternut antennas used to provide with their antennas a little pouch of something they called It's Not Butter. It's a copper paste. It's copper powder mixed with some grease. And they wanted you to put this on all of the connectors, the connections in there, just a little thin element of that, so that it would make a good connection. And it works. It really works. I would take apart connectors that have been there for years, and you could still see the connection was still strong. Hex beam. Yeah, I've got a hex beam. I like it. Okay, this is from Tom Frericks. AE0GQ, one of those one-day wonder extras. And no, I did not memorize the answers. Very good. First, I'm sorry I missed your Saturday live stream. Let's see. Larkfest. Oh, this is the guy who invited me to Larkfest, which was the 1st of April, or somewhere in there. And I'm not sure if it was this weekend. It got canceled. I was going to be one of the speakers there. April 4th. Okay. Yeah. There is HamCon 2020 in Denver in August, which apparently will be the ARRL Rocky Mountain Division Convention. And it's going to be in Denver in Parker, which I'm very tempted to go to. Had the Anytone Ace 578 for several months. Very pleased. Doesn't take much work to move the 878 code plug to the 578. The only problem I have is that the available tri-band antennas are all rather tall. Since I didn't want to permanently mount Bridgecom, I ended up getting one of those MFJ Monster 3 magnet mounts for the RAV4. On the Jeep, I use a diamond mount. I haven't really looked very much into it. I want to show you something. This is what Bridgecom sent me for a tri-band antenna. And unfortunately, on the bottom has got a PL259. It wants to screw into a mount that has an SL239. And I don't have such. So I'm going to fabricate something and see what I can do so I can give that thing a proper test. I want to test it, see what the SWR is. I do have an antenna analyzer. It's that German one that will go up to 600 megahertz, so I can properly test this. I did a short video on that radio showing the different power levels, that it really did work. Otherwise a review of a radio is just a recitation of the features, unless there's something about the radio that really bugs me. I happen to really like the Anytone D878UV handheld. That is one sweet radio. It'll do FM, it'll do DMR. It's a breeze to program. It's got just features galore, GPS, both analog and digital, APRS, etc., etc., etc. I've done videos on that before. And I've got the 578, which is the mobile version. The screen on it looks almost identical to the one in the handheld, which means a really small screen, which kind of surprised me. I know my Yaesu up here's got a nice big screen. Okay, let's see, like numbered lists. Let's see, doing. Oh, yes. Okay, very good. Yeah, I wish I could have gone to Larkfest. I lived in Boulder for many years, raised a couple kids there, and also worked with Bart Jr., who the Boulder Amateur Radio Club Junior Division put over 200 kids, ages 8-ish to 18, through that program. My daughter got her license when she was 2 weeks shy of her 10th birthday. And those kids were really well organized. They met every week. A month is too long to go for a kid. They met every Saturday and had a lot of fun with them. Okay, this is from Neil Marsh, KJ7BNH. Is there an Ask Dave schedule here on the website that lets us know when it's a go and when it's canceled? Probably right under my nose, but I haven't found it. Cheers, Neil. I put a page up on my website where I was listing upcoming Ask Dave videos and discovered that I was really bad at predicting my own work. So my goal is to do a live stream every Saturday and at 1900 UTC, and technically every Friday at 0100 UTC, although that is Thursday night here in the United States, Thursday evening. And what happened, well, I don't know, things happen on Saturdays, and I don't have a good way of sending the word out. There is a community tab on my channel page. Some people get those, but a lot of people don't seem to, if I put a notice up there. I mean, short of actually putting out a video saying, hey, I can't do a video, I don't have a better way of doing that. If anybody's got a suggestion, I'd be very happy to hear it. Be great to have more women in amateur radio, but most don't have an interest. I know my wife, who's a ham, goes to the club meeting only when she knows there's going to be other women there. Because the guys talk about guy things, and the women want to talk about women things. In my mind, sex is not relevant in ham radio. That is true, Christina. And thank you for thinking that. And I hope that you give as good as you get at ham club meetings. Hexbeam, love it. Step IR is great, but I'm not Bill Gates. Yes, Step IR is really expensive. Christine, if you want to get in the air with CW, you might like to look at the Long Island CW Club. Hexbeam's a great antenna, and they cover 6. Yeah, MFJ makes one. I've got one of theirs. No ham should be complaining about your female voice and airwaves. Actually, when I hear a female voice, I try to go out of my way to make sure they have a good experience. Long Island Club, even though I live in Virginia, well, get your pilot's license. The only way they would know would be to look up your call sign. Long Island Radio Club has members everywhere. Oh, good. All classes and sessions are remote on Zoom. That's good. I'd like to learn more about that. Good joke there, Lee. Like that. Minimalist low power. That's a QRP. I've got a whole bunch of QRP rigs and just got a new one, that one from India. Let's see. Yeah, I know. By the way, the president of our radio club, the Montrose Amateur Radio Club, is a woman. And she was just reelected to a second term by acclamation. And she is organized, does things, communicates, and she takes care of her club members. She really does. I have an SDR Play RSP2 Pro, but I don't like the old high antenna. New model RSPDX, it has the BNC. Do you think getting the new RSPDX is worth the money? Yeah, it's a nice little unit. I did a video where I did all three in the SDR Play lineup, the RSP1A, the RSPDX, and the RSP Duo. I have all three of them. One of them I bought with channel funds. The other two were sent to me. Smallest vertical to build or use that worked on 80 meters. You can, the ham stick. The ham stick is about 4 feet long with a 4 foot long stinger. So it's 8 feet long. MFJ makes a variety of bases for the things, okay? And they do work on 80 meters. They are extremely narrow banded. So you have to pick a specific frequency and tune it for that. But if you're going after a specific net, it is a way you can do it. And I was amazed how well it worked. The, a shortened antenna is a compromised antenna. But what you're compromising in this case is bandwidth, not effectiveness. I mean, it seems to work very well. I like valves, yes. Okay, it's back green again. Crazy. Okay. Yeah. Back. Okay, I don't know what's going on with the internet. We live in the middle of nowhere, and we are reliant upon Wi-Fi Elite, which tries really hard and normally does a very good job. But unfortunately, all the kids are home, and they're doing school to home on Zoom during the day, and the whole internet infrastructure is just being terribly, terribly stressed. Okay, hello, we're back, and it's getting questions. This is from Don Valoni, or Valone, depending on how he pronounces it. KD2REU. I have an end-fed wire up for 40, but would like to extend that to transmit on 80 or farther. Do you need to extend a new longer wire, or can I just splice and add additional wire to the end? Yes, you can splice the wire to the end. Probably a good idea to solder it so that you don't have problems with corrosion. But I would warn you that the transformer for the end-fed wire may need to be different if you're going to do 80 meters. You might get in touch with the people who build the ballon for that end-fed wire and ask them what they think about what would happen there. This is from Dave Carlton, WD6EZL. Recently acquired an MFJ 1786, which is a remotely controlled mag loop antenna. I have one. The select buttons do not work or the LED lights up. I could detect no power in the coax when pressing the buttons other than a few millivolts, both positive and negative. When I first powered up the unit using what I thought was a floating non-grounded power supply at 12 volt 2 amps, I believe I pressed the up button and the LED lit up. After hooking everything up, now nothing. If you connected a grounded power supply to that, you can blow out the electronics in that. Now, MFJ has a return policy called no matter what. So if you broke it by connecting it up wrong, send it back, or at least send the control unit back. I have heard rumors that MFJ is coming out with an automatic controller for that. Wondering if I fried something. Could very well be. Looking at the schematic, I'm puzzled. It seems with power on, I'm seeing minus 11 where I expect 12. Yes, what the thing does is it puts power on the line, which causes the motor to turn one way, and then it reverses the polarity of that power to get the motor to turn the other way. Okay? And that's what's going on in there, and that's why it has to be a non-grounded power supply, because the coax going to the antenna, the ground side is grounded. So if you try and put minus 12 volts on that thing and put the positive up there, you're going to short something. It'll out inside. Follow MFJ's instructions on the power supply for that. I would go ahead and buy the little power cube from them that they reference. Okay. All right. Trying to get started on HF, never got into that before. Well, I've got all my videos on general. Zoom's a security nightmare. I've heard. There's lots of stuff talking about, Zoom squatting and stuff like that. VoIP engineer, ISPs are struggling. Yes, absolutely. Ask them to provide quality of service. Mine was the one and only Flying Dutchman. Then driving through Chicago, other Flying Dutchmen came on the air. So, oh, okay. N2SJH in New Jersey, first time checking in. Good to see you. Good to have you with us. Not ham related, but someone would like to hear more about how a Wi-Fi elite service works. Is it satellite? No, it is not. It is terrestrial microwave. Basically, it's Wi-Fi with big antennas. And this is all legal, non-licensed stuff, and you can buy this equipment. Instead of a little Wi-Fi connector with a little thing like that sticking out the back, you get a parabolic dish. And they make these for, people who supply Wi-Fi out in the country. I have a parabolic dish on my roof that points at Waterdog Mountain, which is, I think, 11 miles away. And I am the relay point for the entire neighborhood, plus Log Hill Mesa over on the other side. And so it's bounce, 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 bounce. And they get phenomenal bandwidth through those things. And they only put out a watt or two. And if you go into rural areas, you'll see outfits like this. In the city, it's easiest to do it over cable or fiber to the home. Out here in the country, man, you're lucky to have any utilities. We've got water, Tri-County water, which is pumped all the way up from the Gunnison River. Tri-County water, we've got electricity, which is an electrical cooperative, San Miguel Power. We pay about 16 cents kilowatt hour because we're way out here in the middle of nowhere, and there's a lot of transmission line per customer. And, of course, we have our own septic, and we use cell phones. There is cell phone coverage here. That's very nice. What do I enjoy most about amateur radio? I guess making videos and doing live streams, going to club meetings, going to Hamfest, talking to people on the air. I'm bigger into rag chewing than I am DXing or anything like that. What is my computer doing? By the way, the live chat is open. Or, what is that they call it now? Super Chat. Super Chat is open. Let's see. This is from Jerry Quigley, K6PDE. Watching your shows now for a good year. 2 questions. Now that I moved to other state, I can now put up bigger antennas. My first is an HF Octopus antenna. That's not that big an antenna, actually. That's a good small backyard antenna. How high should the pole be? Well, it's high as you can get it. I actually had mine only about 15 feet, and it worked fine. But I would try getting it up 20 or more than that. G5RV Premium 6080 meter multiband antenna. Planning to get some old telephone poles put in. I'm not sure how tall I need to put the antenna up. I want to hang it horizontal between the two poles. Get it up as high as you can. Now, I will note on those telephone poles, they will migrate in the ground. If you put a strong pull on that thing, the poles are gradually, over a period of years, going to tilt in toward each other. So you'll have to keep tightening that. Okay, good. And let's see. Got just two more to do. Let's see if we can squeeze them in. Ken, W8LTT, asked a question about a YouTube video about the rhombic and asked about the recumbent rhombic. Turns out it's a reentrant rhombic. Oh, this is where you, instead of putting a termination resistor at the end, you put a reactive component that will feed back the energy at the right phase so it goes in the right direction. Otherwise, you would not be able to use one of the VOA 200,000 watt transmitters because you need a 100,000 watt resistor out there. So, yeah, it's now the problem is that particular matching stub only works on one frequency. So if you're going to be changing frequencies, you've got to change the parameters on the matching stub too. Okay, let's see. How I have my house and my apartment connected to the same LAN 2.5 miles apart. Yes. And you can encrypt these too. So wireless ground ISP, and it stinks, hate it, but it's my only option. Yeah, well, we actually do pretty well here. We can usually stream. We had 2 Zoom conversations going on Monday at the same time, but that didn't work out real well. Quick Wi-Fi Elite. Yeah, it is. And Tom, thank you very much from Canada. For the car battery, how do I make it parallel and not series? You can put 2 12-volt batteries in parallel. They should be the same model of battery. So otherwise one starts to charge the other and it gets really weird in there. They should both be new or, both medium age or something like that so that they don't start charging each other. And once you connect them, leave them connected. And make sure that they're the same temperature, the same height, all this kind of stuff for a long-term arrangement. I have 4 batteries in here that are 6 volt. They're sealed, they're AGM batteries made specifically for deep cycle solar work. And I've got them connected in series parallel so I get 12 volts out. And I cross-connect them in the middle and everything like that. And that is my main source for solar for powering the station. Now, I did buy the little Samlex power supply that is the reference power supply. That's what I'm running the IC7300 on. So, okay, this is the last question we'll do for the evening. Chris Rank, K3DCR. Chris Rank, or Crank. Not sure if this would make a full episode or not. My 9-year-old has expressed interest in getting a tech license. I'm considered, however, about how searchable FCC records are these days. Anybody can look you up on QRZ. I'm not comfortable with the child's address being easily found. Do you have any advice? A license, a ham license, is a public record, so it can't be hidden. The public has to be able to see it. However, they don't put your age on your license record. Your age is not there. It's not part of the public record. So nobody would know. And you go on QRZ, you don't have to post anything there. You don't have to put a photo. You don't have to do anything there. And QRZ will just report what the FCC reports. So-and-so lives at this address, and that's that. There's nothing in there to indicate that it's a child. So if he gets a ham license, it is by its very nature a matter of public record that he has a license. But the age doesn't go anywhere. It used to. Many, many years ago, the FCC would collect ages, but they don't anymore. And I think for just the kinds of reasons that you're talking about here. Okay, thank you so much. Let's see. For a ridiculously complete series in the 7300, yes. There are people who really go into depth on these. I try and be a generalist. I'll cover everything from handhelds to HF antennas to grounding and bonding to whatever it is. I'll try and cover everything. So that means I'm like a generalist. I do a lot of everything, but not much of anything. But I hear, I think the people I'm really trying to get to the most to help are the new generals, people who are new on HF, because there's not a lot of support out there for people who are in that position. What is the battery conditioner used for? It puts a high voltage pulse in there to try and knock some of the lead sulfate off of the plates. There's a lot of controversy about whether they work. Let's see. Just get the yeah. You can use a PO box. That is true. I use a PO box. A PO box 98, Ridgeway, Colorado. Yeah, the PO box would be great. Okay. So last chance for super chat. Thank you all so much for joining. I love live streams. They're so much fun. And I hope you do too. We only got up to a little over 100 people, but then the word isn't out about this, and we did have 2 internet fails halfway through. It has nothing to do with the computer. That's just the state of the internet these days. I suspect people will be putting in a little bit more capacity. Although there are going to be a lot of people at the telco saying this will pass, and so they don't put in the capacity. So thank you very, very much. Can you use a solar panel to power a base station? I do. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, okay, very good. All right, thank you so much, 73. Thank you so much for the help with the computer. You guys figured it out. You figured out what the problem was, and it felt very dumb, but that's being fixed. And thank you to the guy up in Delta who is loaning me a chip so I can at least get the computer loaded up. And thank all of you for your support, your super chats, everything. So I'm going to say, got to get a little bit of water so I can say it one last time. Until we next meet, 73.